Hey guys, my name is Danish and welcome back to my channel. And what a weekend we have had here. So this is going to be a longer video, so if you're on a browser on the desktop, just put me on another tab and start doing something else in the front, because this is going to sound like a long podcast. So without further ado, let's just get started into the British Grand Prix race weekend. So right off the bat, we have an unusual format for this weekend, being this is the first trial of the sprint qualifying. So the thing is, the weekend was not that hectic before, and Friday running was just not interesting to people. So to spice it up, they had free practice 1 on Friday as normal, qualifying after that. Then on Saturday we had FP2 and then sprint qualifying, and then the final race on Sunday. So this is a format that they're trying out that might look interesting, but I have a few views on this. So having a qualifying on Friday is not something that they need to do, because it might help the ticket sales on the track side, but for everybody else, who is the majority of the people who are watching the race, having it on a Friday is not feasible, because even if you have the best of company, it is still going to be a 5-day work week. So only the Saturday and Sunday sessions will be watchable by the viewers. So I would suggest FIA to have FP1 and FP2 on the Friday, quali on Saturday morning, and then sprint in the afternoon, and then the race on Sunday as usual. That makes it a bit more interesting, and with the change of conditions from day to day, it will be a great session to watch on the Saturday morning qualifying, because they can't have data on the track if it has rained before or if the temperatures have dropped. So it will be a bit more of a strategic mess and people adapting on the fly, so it will be a lot more interesting. But those are my views on this sprint qualifying. If you have any other views, just put it down in the comment and let's have a discussion over there. Now coming into the race weekend, FP1 was normal, but it was hectic because everybody was out doing the short term runs and the short fuel load runs to nail the setup of the car and preparing it for qualifying. And then there comes the regulations, because with the new sprint qualifying weekends, there are a few regulation changes for this specific weekend. So regulation change number 1 was park permit conditions start at qualifying. So this used to be normal, because after qualifying there was never another session or two before the race. So starting the park permit conditions at the start of qualifying was okay, but here park permit starts a day earlier with 2 more sessions afterwards, which makes it a bit of a mess. Because if you don't know what park permit means the skid blocks and the brakes and the suspension geometry all are new and set up, and you cannot change any of those for the rest of the race weekend, or you will incur a penalty. Like if you change the front wing to a different specification, if you change the rear wing to a different specification, you can tweak the wing adjustment, because the flaps can be adjusted a bit up and down, and the rear wing also can be a little bit adjusted, but beyond that you can't do much. You can change your air pressures of your tires, and you can only go up, not go down. Also aero changes cannot be made, because if you damage an aero part, you can change it for a like for like part. By that I mean it has to be the same specification of the wing that was damaged. For this weekend they forgot that, and they allowed the change of aero surfaces to a newer specification if they have an accident after park permit conditions start in qualifying. And also they adjusted for braking can be changed, like the pads and discs and everything else can be adjusted after that starts as well. So it's basically park permit but not park permit conditions. So it was a weird adaptation thing that the teams had to adjust to. And then the other major rule was qualifying was supposed to have only one set of tire that was used, that was the softs. So they could use softs all throughout the qualifying session, and nearly all the teams went through 6 sets normally, because they do 2 runs in Q1, 2 runs in Q2 and 2 runs in Q3. So at the end of Q1 we lost Nikita Mazepin and Mick Schumacher as the bottom 2, Tsunoda P16, Raikkonen P17 and Latifi P18 normal. But now the change comes in Q2, where most of the people used to go for a medium tire for a strategic advantage in the race, but there is no strategic advantage over here, because everybody has to do it on the softs. And the race also, everybody got a free tire choice. So this is one of the things that I like, because it takes out another element of strategy and another element of compromising your Q2 run to either get into Q3 on a harder set of tires, or just out of the top 10 and get free tire choice and then overtake everybody on the first lap, or go for a longer stint. So this opened up a little bit of a driver's effort in a way, because the strategy does not call how the race will go, because the tires can be chosen whatever they like, and most of them will go for the mediums and a few will go for the hards for the reverse strategy to work. But it all goes down to the drivers after this call, and I like this call. So Q2 was normal. We lost Alonso, Gasly, Ocon, Giovinazzi and Stroll at the end of Q2, and Q3 was again a mess because Hamilton was on top after his first timed run. So this was interesting because we saw Russell and Norris and Hamilton and all of them saying that the British crowd gives them a second of advantage and getting into Q3 and giving them a second's advantage of pace, and this was showing because Russell was also in the top 10 here, and Norris obviously because he's in McLaren, he's already in the top 5 most of the time, so he's also guaranteed, and Hamilton was also guaranteed. So at the end of the final round of Q3, Hamilton was still on top. He made a mistake on the final corner and he did a bit of a 4-wheel drift at the end, but he saved it and he didn't set the fastest time, but Max Verstappen did improve on his time but couldn't improve as much and take the lead away from Hamilton. So this is one of the poles that Mercedes got, because you can't call this a qualifying. Again, you cannot call it a pole position winner, because the pole position winner is the one who starts the race on first, and whoever gets pole in quali is not gonna get first in the race. So it was a bit of a convoluted mess, and the FIA had told all the commentators and the media people to not call the sprint a race. It was officially designated sprint, and if you want to extend it you can call it sprint qualifying, but you can't call it a race, which was a bit of a confusing mess because you start like a race, you overtake people like a race. The best time that you do is not necessarily gonna get you first position in the sprint qualifying. So it was a mini race or a heat or something like that. So it was going to be an interesting thing on this Saturday. So the final qualification for the top 10 was Hamilton first, Verstappen second, Bottas third, Leclerc fourth and Perez fifth, which was a nice showing. Norris and Ricciardo in 6th and 7th. Ricciardo really stepped himself up this weekend and he came very close to the time that Norris did after languishing for so long by not getting to grips with the car. George Russell P8, a great showing from Russell. Carlos Sainz P9, not such a great showing from Carlos, and Vettel P10 rounding off the top 10. So now we come to the sprint qualifying. So 17 laps, 100 kilometers, no pit stops necessary, free tire choice, and nearly everybody went for the medium tires because they tested it on a Saturday morning as well and saw that the mediums also started having blisters and overheating. But 4 people who were Kimi, Valtteri, Alonso and Ocon were on the softs, and they were the ones to look out for into the sprint qualifying. So lights out, and it was a normal start for everybody, no turn 1, lap 1 incidents, but the soft runners did have an advantage here because Alonso by the end of lap 1 was up 6 places from 12th to 5th. Kimi Raikkonen was up 4 positions, Ocon was up 2 positions, but Hamilton lost the lead to Verstappen like he has done in the last 3 races, where if Hamilton is in pole, Max Verstappen just gets away in the start and has a better start. And this time Lewis's brakes were smoking in Baku. Max Verstappen's brakes were on fire. The left right was on fire. There was flame coming out of it at the start, and he outgunned Lewis and got into the lead into sprint qualifying, and this was where he stayed for the rest of the race. And then on lap 5 Sergio Perez spun and he comes out P18 I think at the end, and that was a bad start and bad weekend from him because just holding a position in sprint qualifying would mean that you would start in the same position in the race, but losing places in sprint qualifying is a bit of a deterrent because you worked hard to get the one of the top times on the chart to be qualified up there, and then a mistake will put you down at the end of the grid for the race is going to be a bit disappointing and a hard pill to swallow. And then we had another collision between Russell and Carlos Sainz, for which Russell got a 3+ grid penalty after the sprint qualifying, which will be applied to the race. But at the end of sprint qualifying, it was a bit of a stalemate because nobody could push their tires or take huge risks because even they were blistering on the sprint as well. And other than Bottas, who was on the softs, everybody else actually lost the positions they gained in the start. And at the end of sprint qualifying, we got the final official grid slots, which was Verstappen number 1, Hamilton and Bottas P2, P3, Leclerc P4, Norris and Ricciardo held their position. Alonso came up 7th from 11th, Vettel P8 from 10th, Russell P9, he lost a position, Ocon 10, Sainz P11, he lost a couple positions, Gasly P12, Kimi P13, Stroll P14, Antonio P15, Tsunoda P16, Latifi P17, Nikita and Mick bringing up the bottom 2, and then Sergio Perez, who actually had to retire his car because he damaged the car after his spin on lap 5. So he was going to start from the pit lane for the race, which was a bit disappointing, but yeah, can't help it. It's an experimental feature that's been tested out. Let it run its course and see how the rest of the weekend fares. Now coming on to the race, so it was nice and hot, nice and warm, no clouds, no chance of rain, and either a 2-stoppage strategy or a 1-stop strategy. Most of them who were on the mediums would just stop around lap 18, 20, 25 and go to the end. The medium can also go to another medium and then soft or soft medium. The 2-stop strategy was also available, but Perez was starting from the pit lane and Max Verstappen had 2 Mercedes behind him, and Kimi Raikkonen broke another record because this was his 20th time of racing at the British Grand Prix at Silverstone, which is also a record. So congrats Kimi, but he's getting old. I don't know when he'll retire, but let's see what happens next year, because Sauber renewed their deal with Alfa Romeo, and coming from next year or the year after, Peter Sauber gets free choice on which driver he can get and not have to get just from the drivers academy from Ferrari. So it's gonna be an interesting mix up with all the F2 coming up soon. Now let's get on to the elephant in the room, which was the start of the race. So Hamilton and Verstappen side by side, they start the race and it was chaos because Hamilton was pushing Max left and right, weaving, going wide and getting a better line and accelerating better, and then the time they came to cops at the end of the old pit lane, Hamilton got on the inside of Max Verstappen and boom, Max Verstappen went flying and crashing into the barriers. Instant safety car, and by the time Hamilton recovered from the crash, Leclerc went forward, and after he went forward, the safety car was called. They did 1 lap and then red flag. So this was lap 1 incident, but it wasn't a small incident. It was a 51G impact for Max Verstappen when he went into the barrier at nearly 200 miles an hour, nearly 300 kilometers an hour. So it was a huge crash, and then it was the finger pointing from everybody. And from the last few races, we are starting to get the FIA communications from the team, which is a great addition from Formula 1, and whoever is the race director, love it. Just keep including that, more and more of that. And it was Red Bull calling in and saying it was a stupid mistake from Hamilton. Nobody pushes it in the inside at Cobbs. And then Toto is like, I have a email that I have sent you with all the data that you need to Michael Massey. And Toto is like, he was alongside. And Lewis was like, I was alongside him and he quizzed me. And Max was like, I was ahead and he dive bombed me. And there will be finger pointing, but the FIA concluded by giving Hamilton a 10-second penalty, be it a right penalty or a wrong penalty. I have nowhere to say in this because I don't have the telemetry. I don't know what happens at the heat of a moment. The crash happened in a split second, so the reaction times also come into play. These drivers are driving at 200 miles an hour and doing all calculations and taking all the risks and doing it and racing hard. So it's gonna be something that only people in the field can judge and give a proper eye about. But the backlash was huge from all the fans from everywhere I went. Instagram, Reddit, 9gag, Twitter, Facebook, everywhere fans were like, he put a guy in the hospital and then did a parade lap. And if you win at your hometown, you're always going to be excited and going to do a parade and show for the fans, because that's how much a win means. But I have no say in this as well. Do 90% of the people who were in the comments and complaining, and even Formula 1, FIA, Mercedes, all of them condemned the abuse that Hamilton is getting and the backlash he's got for this. And even the drivers who were there and even the F1 pundits who were there called it a racing incident. So I have the article up here, so I'll talk about it. Christian Horner was blaming Hamilton. Toto was be like, it's a racing incident, you need 2 people to have the race like that. Julian Palmer said it's a racing incident. Max Verstappen obviously is going to be saying that he took away my win. Yeah, he'll be hurt. Charles Leclerc said it was a racing incident. Karun Chandhok, again, he said it's a racing incident. Valtteri said it is a racing incident. Alex also said the same thing, that this has been coming up from the start of the championship, that both of these are hard drivers and it's gonna happen sometime or the other. But Lewis did the same moves on Lando Norris and Charles Leclerc in the same race, which I'll come to when I'm come to the point. Let me get over with my rant over here. And then even Carlos Sainz as well said it's a bit of a difficult judgment to make because they can't make a clear-cut blame on either of the party. There's always a scale between which it revolves. It's not black or white, it's a whole spectrum of that. So I agree with all of these, and for all the haters who come and point out that no, it was Lewis's fault and you're fanboying him and all of that, where were you when it happened with Senna and Prost? Remember Japan 1990, 1989? Prost did it to Senna, Senna did it to Prost, and you still call him a greatest driver of all time. Prost also is a world time championship winner. And what about Schumacher? Yeah, there will always be haters and there will always be hard racing between drivers, and they'll always have accidents because that's how the sport evolves. That is what is the definition of close racing. And all the haters over there who's putting blame on Hamilton, or who's putting the blame on Verstappen because he didn't yield or give room on the inside, or Hamilton went wide and hit Max, and just you have not experienced any of this at the speeds that they experience. The keyboard warriors, just be quiet and enjoy the sport. Leave the analysis to the FIA, the Formula 1 Commission, pundits, the other racers who are in the situation and who can understand what happened. So I guess that's my take on this accident, and it was about half an hour after the accident that they restarted the race because they had to repair the barrier and all of that stuff. And this was some sort of mess in my day as well, because I had two events to watch at the same time. So I had the ESL IEM Cologne 2021 tournament of CSGO running, and the finale was at the same time the race started. So after the crash, I had a good solid half an hour of watching the tournament go simple. And spoilers on that, he did lift the trophy this year, so hoping he gets to lift the trophy in the Katowice major coming up next year. So fingers crossed on that. And I'll not talk more about CSGO because this is a Formula 1 video and the Formula 1 channel. So, and now Max Verstappen is out of the race. Sergio Perez is last. And before you start, Max Verstappen is normal. He got discharged from the hospital in the evening as well. He was checked out. He's normal. He's out without any major injuries. So again, second restart. It was a normal restart, but Bottas had a bad start and Norris pipped him up into P3, and Bottas was stuck behind Norris for a while. Lap 4, Sebastian Vettel spun from the old pit shed while he was battling Kimi Raikkonen, I think, or somebody, and he just spun out on his own because he got too early on the throttle and he came out last. And Perez was on a charge because he was already P13 on lap 8 and he had started last, so he was nearly getting one racer each lap from 20th to 13th in 8 laps. That was a good showing from Perez. And then after that, it was a bit of a stall out because everybody was managing tires because they either want to make it go as far as possible and make it a one stopper instead of a two stopper, but whoever was on the softs had to go for that two stop routine because the softs would not handle the distance that they had to cover to make it a one stop. And then finally Lando Norris pits on lap 22, and the pit stop was slow and it took about 6 seconds to finish the stop, and Mercedes took advantage of this, pulled in Bottas the next lap itself and regained the position in the pits. And then Hamilton pits on lap 28, serving the 10-second penalty, and he comes out behind Lando Norris, but not a big deal because Leclerc has a bit of a gap because Hamilton had to put the 10-second penalty as well into his time, so Leclerc could pit a few laps later as well. But yeah, Leclerc pits 2 laps later on lap 30. Hamilton now chases Norris. He takes Norris on lap 31 at Copse at the same corner that he crashed into Max Verstappen. And then we got team orders for swapping Mercedes' Hamilton and Bottas to push Hamilton in the front, because Hamilton on these new tires was just pushing and pushing and pushing. Like we have seen this from Hamilton from Hungary to other races where he chased down Max as well a couple of races ago, and he was pushing and gaining about a second a lap on Charles Leclerc, and he overtook Norris at Copse. They did team orders and switched places with Bottas and not impeded, and then he was chasing Leclerc down. So it was like 9 laps remaining and 6 seconds of gap, and each lap he was cutting down on a second. And then on lap 49 he got DRS. The race is 52 laps long, and then the next lap he overtook him, and yeah, he was in the lead. Leclerc P2, Bottas P3, and in the middle of all of this we saw a DRS train from Alonso in P7 to P11, again Alonso being the bottleneck but also the widest car in the world and making it difficult for other racers to not be able to overtake him easily. And then Perez did another pit stop to switch on the soft tires and took away the fastest lap from Hamilton, but he was in P16 and did not get a point for it. But Red Bull did this just to deny a point for Mercedes, because it finally comes down to a single point and they're fighting over a single point, and it's such an intensive thing. And then the parade lap that Hamilton did with the flag from Marshall, and he was waving and he was driving all through. This was something that stung the the haters because how can he do a parade lap after putting a driver in the hospital? Again, I'm not gonna get into this because we cannot comment on this because we are not in the scale that they are. We are not the athletes they are. We are not driving at the speeds they are to make decisions sitting on the couch at home. So it was all in all a good race. I guess it was a bit of a lull because everybody was on tire environment, but once the pit stop started happening, it was getting a bit more hectic because different strategies means people were overtaking each other, and yeah, it was a good race to finish off on. And then the classification of this race weekend was Lewis P1, Charles P2, Valtteri P3. Gone is the Hamilton Verstappen Bottas trio that has happened along for many races, and now the gloves are off because the niceties are over. Now both of them can be ruthless and attack each other on the track where the attacking should be and not off track. So let's just bring it on and see how this championship continues. Lando Norris and Daniel Ricciardo P4, P5, great showing from McLaren. Sainz P6 being up there and helping Ferrari in their fight with McLaren in the constructors. Fernando P7, a good showing. Lance Stroll P8, a good showing. Esteban Ocon P9, Yuki P10. Oh, Yuki, nice. Pierre Gasly P11, just out of the points. George Russell P12. After 2 races of nearly being in the points, this was a forgettable race for George. Antonio P13, Latifi P14, Kimi P15, Sergio, a recovery drive but not enough. Nikita Mazepin and Mick Schumacher the bottom 2, and Sebastian Vettel retired the car after his spin and being at the back, and Max Verstappen the DNF on lap 1. Now this brings up the championship with Hamilton now just trailing by 8 points behind Max Verstappen, and Lando is still P3. Valtteri has come up a position in P4. That's looking nice. And then I finished the race. I finished everything. I turned to my laptop, continued watching the CSGO tournament, which was an interesting mix because it was just 3 maps and a complete stomp down by Navi against G2, and it was something of an interesting game. And if you haven't ever watched a CSGO tournament, if it is up, just try and watch it and see if you enjoy it. And I guess that's the end of this video. If you like this video, give this video a like, get subscribed to my channel and ring the bell icon to receive notifications of all of my future videos. What did I miss in this race weekend? Let me know in the comments and we'll have a discussion over there. Follow me on my social media channels where I share a lot of interesting stuff from behind the scenes to whatever I'm doing to race stuff, Formula 1 stuff. So check me out over there. Links are in the description as well. And as always, stay home, stay safe. I'm gonna see you guys in the next one. Peace.